Yes, yes, yes. Happy Monday. How are we doing? Hope you're good. Welcome to show 432. How to overcome your excuses that you tell yourself. So I hope you had a really good weekend. It's nice to be back into routine, back around home surroundings. Love travelling, love doing all of that, love being away, but when you're not doing it with your family, you slowly start to miss them and it starts to grind you down when you're not around them. So it's nice to be home, it's nice to be back in the environment. The sea's right here. I'm going to take a dip straight after. But today I wanted to address the excuses that we make, and hopefully I can give you some strategies here that will help you overturn them. I've also kind of got a big announcement to make on here as well. And I think it's going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be something that I like to think that majority of you would be quite interested in. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Boorman. And if you are coming through, then please do hit the thumb button, the love heart button, so that I know you've been watching. I can see who's coming through. And in the comments below, what I want you to do is simply going, and you have to be honest and open, do you make too many excuses not to show up? Okay, where are you at the spectrum? Are you, I never make excuses, I'm 100% on it? Or the other side where you go, I'm constantly making excuses and it's holding me back, okay? And it's holding me back. So I'm going to go through this quick strategy now. I'm going to go through this process, and at the very end, I'm going to kind of make the announcement that I think all of you are going to be quite excited about. Okay, so let's look at excuses and let's look at what goes on in our head. Okay, for me, excuses are a routine. Okay, they are simply a process that you will go through when you fall into a particular category. When something happens, it's the trigger then to create excuses. So let me give you an example here, okay? So an example of somebody that might make an excuse, and you might recognize this and resonate with this, and if you do, what I want you to do is be honest and open about this in the comments, okay? So let's say James goes to work. James goes to work at 9. He's already started the day quite stressful, the commuting, other people driving, got up quite late, go through the day, dealing with stress, feeling overwhelmed, feeling overpressured, mind is intensifying, feeling quite triggered by other people, getting to the end of the day to work. I was planning to go to the gym, but I feel quite stressed and I feel quite frustrated, and I don't really feel like going to the gym. So we go, I'm just too tired, I'm just too worn out, I'm just too exhausted to go to the gym. Okay? That is a classic example of somebody that's not consistent because they're making excuses, okay? So what ends up happening, let's put it into this simple format, is that you create a storyboard of what's going to happen, okay? So for example, the storyboard is, the first storyboard is, so when James goes to work. Second storyboard, James is at work, getting overwhelmed, stressed, frustrated. Next storyboard, James finishes work, okay, frustrated, stressed and overwhelmed. Next storyboard, makes excuses and goes home. So you can see that this storyboard is going along with the same result. Now, because you follow that story, your excuses are the byproducts of the stories that you tell yourself. So because you're following this storyline, you believe that has become the non-negotiable within your life. So when you're tired, frustrated and overwhelmed from work, it's standard practice for you to make an excuse, i.e. I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm frustrated, I just want to go home, and go past the gym and go home. Does that make sense to everyone? Does everyone kind of resonate with that in some way, shape or form? Okay. So what we have to do is change the end part of that story. Okay, if you think about us believing that, like I read a story to my girls and they're invested in it, probably my 6-year-old more than my 2, and she's invested in it. If I read about I don't know, the fox and the gingerbread man, you know, and then the gingerbread man on the back of the fox when they're crossing the river, then on the head, then on the nose, and then it eats the poor thing. But my kids invested in that story. They believe it. They're like, man, Dad, does this happen? Does this, like, and you have to then explain its story, realities, etc. Just like you believe your own excuses, just like you believe the story that you tell yourself in that storyboard. Does that make sense? Okay, if that makes sense, just so I can visually see, just hit the blue thumb button for me, because obviously I'm just talking to my phone now. So what we have to do is we have to change that last storyboard. Okay, everything else is the same. Like, what we don't want to get too delved into deep is like the storyboard through work, because do you know what? Work is work. It's stressful, it's intense, it's overwhelming. That's what it is. But what we have to do is go, right, I am tired, I am overwhelmed, I am frustrated, but I'm going to go to the gym. And you do it on one day. And then you go, well, if I can do it on one day, I can do it the next day, I can do it the next day. Great, let's get into that. Great, we're on the sequence now. Okay, let's go to the next day. Bang. And if we can do that for 1, 2, 3, if we can get to the 4th week where we've changed that storyboard at the very end, then what we have created is a new story. We've written a new story, like writing a book. And now your narrative changes. So instead of making the excuse of, oh, I'm really tired, we set the standard by going, I'm going to the gym. So all we've done is we've altered that end storyboard. Okay? So think about your story, the story that you tell yourself, because your excuses are a byproduct of your stories collected together. Okay? And that's how you're actioning. Like, there are no excuses not to do anything. There are none. If you've hurt your knee and you can't walk and you're struggling to walk, you can do an upper body exercise. If you've hurt your arm, you can do a lower body exercise. We're always going to be tired. So when the alarm goes off, making some excuse that you're tired or that you're overwhelmed or some other excuse is not going to, I'm going to poke myself in the eye, is not going to change your outcomes. So what you have to understand is that your stories will change your life. So if you want to be a high performer in your career, if you don't want to be overweight anymore and have a body you're proud of and feel fit and strong, mentally robust and emotionally in control, if you want to have an unbreakable relationship where you're the leader to your family, okay, where you show up for your wife, where you show up for your kid, do you want to work on your personal development? Then you have to start changing the story. You have to start changing the narrative, because excuses, because distractions, that's average thinking. And nobody wants to be the average guy. Some people might, but a very small percentage do. I like to think at 5:30 here in the morning, you're joining me because you want to be an elite level of mentality. You want to show up. You want to cut the BS. You want to stop the excuses. You want to do the things that you want to do to create the life you want, so that you can actually go through it and stop being dominated by the chaos. So the thing that you have to do is you have to cut out all excuses. There are no excuses. Went to the gym yesterday, absolutely knackered, fatigued from all of the training, and that was the best time to go training, because that's the time that I have to go and do it. Okay? That's the time that I have to go and do it. You have to show up when it's cold, when it's wet, when you don't feel like it. You have to show up when it's been a busy day, when you've been full of responsibility, when you're feeling the pressure, when you don't feel like it. They're all the times that you need to show up. That's what a leader does. That's what an elite mentality does. That's how you break through. If you keep coming back to going, oh, it's a bit dark, or I'm just, bro, I'm going to tell you now, you are never, ever, ever going to change. Ever. I don't care who you are or what you do. Unless you start changing the storyboard, unless you start switching things up, unless you change your attitude, your growth is going to flatline. Your growth is going to flatline. You've got to change the story. So every time you can hear the story going off, that's fine, those stories do go. Discipline is doing the things that you don't want to do, but you know you need to. Okay? And discipline is what overrides those conversations that you're having with yourself in your head. So go out there and get it done. All right? So let's get on with it. No excuses. No faff. Change the story. Change the narrative. Achieve the life you want to. All right, let's get to work.